Imagine this. You're just a kid. Not even old enough to drive. Not even old enough to vote. You're basically the age where you should be thinking about playing games, eating snacks, and having fun with your friends. But instead someone walks up to you and says, "You are the king now." And then they say something even worse. "You're very sick and you're not going to get better." That is exactly what happened to a real boy in history named King Baldwin IV. And his story is one of the saddest, bravest, and most shocking stories you will ever hear. Because Baldwin didn't just become king while sick, he became one of the toughest leaders in medieval history while his body was slowly falling apart. And yes, he's also the king who became famous for wearing a mask. But why did he wear it? And what was history hiding behind it? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why Baldwin's biggest battle wasn't against enemy armies. It was against his own body. Baldwin was born in the Kingdom of Jerusalem a long time ago, over 800 years ago. Jerusalem was an extremely important city. Christians believed it was holy. Muslims also believed it was holy. So it was a place that many powerful people wanted to control. When Baldwin was young, he seemed normal at first. He was a prince, meaning he lived in a palace and had tutors who taught him reading, writing, and fighting. But one day, his teacher noticed something strange. The boys were playing a rough game. They were grabbing each other, pushing, scratching, basically the kind of stuff kids do when they're playing too hard. The other boys would shout, "Oh!" when they got hurt. But Baldwin didn't react. Not even a little. At first, the teacher thought Baldwin was just really tough. But then the teacher realized something scary. Baldwin wasn't tough. Baldwin couldn't feel pain. That is not normal. Pain is something your body uses to warn you. It's like an alarm system. If you touch fire, pain tells you, "Stop." That's dangerous. But Baldwin's body wasn't sending those alarms. Soon, the doctors discovered the truth. Baldwin had leprosy. Leprosy is a disease that can slowly damage your nerves, your skin, and your body. Over time, it can make your hands weak. It can make your face change. It can even cause blindness. Today, leprosy can be treated with medicine. But back then, people didn't understand it. They were terrified of it. Some people thought it was a curse. Some people thought it was punishment from God. And many people believed anyone with leprosy should be sent away forever. So Baldwin's future looked horrible. But then something happened. Baldwin's father died, and Baldwin became king. And guess how old he was? 13 years old. That's the age of a kid in middle school. Now imagine being 13 and having to run an entire kingdom. Imagine having to make decisions about wars, money, laws, and protecting your people. And on top of that, you're slowly getting sicker. That's the nightmare Baldwin lived in. And it got worse, because the kingdom wasn't safe at all. A powerful Muslim leader named Saladin was rising. Saladin was extremely smart, extremely brave, and he had one goal: to take Jerusalem back. And Saladin wasn't just some random enemy. He was building a huge army and uniting powerful lands together. He was becoming the strongest leader in the region. So Baldwin was basically facing a monster. And the scariest part? Saladin had time. Because Saladin knew Baldwin was sick. He knew Baldwin's body was getting weaker. So Saladin didn't even have to rush. He could simply wait. But Baldwin wasn't the kind of king who sat around waiting to die. Instead, Baldwin did something surprising. He fought. As Baldwin grew older, his leprosy got worse. His hands became weaker. His body became more fragile. Some days, he struggled to even move properly. But Baldwin still trained. He still learned strategy. He still met with advisors and made plans. And he still acted like a real king, because he knew that if he looked weak, people might betray him. Because back then, politics was dangerous. If nobles thought a king was weak, they might try to steal power. They might start fights inside the kingdom. They might even try to replace him. So Baldwin had to look strong even when he wasn't. Then came the moment that made Baldwin famous. When Baldwin was around 16 years old, Saladin invaded with a huge army. Saladin's army was massive, tens of thousands of soldiers. Baldwin's army was much smaller. Some stories say Baldwin only had a few hundred knights and a few thousand soldiers. In simple words, Baldwin was outnumbered. Badly. It was like a small school basketball team trying to fight an entire stadium of professional players. Most people thought Baldwin would lose. But Baldwin made a bold choice. Instead of hiding in the city, Baldwin rode out to fight Saladin. And remember, Baldwin was sick. Some reports say he had to be helped onto his horse because his body was too weak. But he didn't care. He showed up anyway. And then something unbelievable happened. Baldwin attacked Saladin's army in a surprise battle called the Battle of Montgisard. Saladin didn't expect Baldwin to attack. Saladin thought Baldwin would hide. But Baldwin and his men struck hard, fast, and with everything they had. And against all odds, Baldwin won. Saladin's army was crushed. Saladin barely escaped alive. This was shocking. It was embarrassing for Saladin. People could not believe a sick teenage king had defeated one of the most powerful armies in the region. And Baldwin became a legend. But here's the sad truth. Even legends can't stop sickness. Year by year, Baldwin's condition became worse. His hands became so damaged he couldn't properly hold a sword. His vision got worse. His body weakened. And this is where the famous mask comes in. Some stories say Baldwin wore a mask later in his life to hide how badly his face was affected by leprosy. But the mask wasn't just about hiding. It was about power. Because if the people saw their king looking weak and dying, they might panic. They might rebel. The nobles might fight for control. So Baldwin had to protect his image. The mask helped him stay a king in the eyes of his people. But while Baldwin fought his illness, another danger was growing. The danger of the future. Baldwin could not have children. That meant he didn't have an heir to take over after him. And in a kingdom, that is a huge problem. Because when people don't know who the next king will be, they start arguing. They start forming teams. They start making secret plans. Baldwin tried to fix this by choosing his nephew, a young boy named Baldwin IV, to be the next king. But Baldwin IV knew something terrifying. Even if he chose an heir, the kingdom might still fall apart after he died. Because Baldwin wasn't just a king. He was the glue holding everything together. And sadly, Baldwin was running out of time. In 1185, King Baldwin IV died. He was only 23 years old. That's younger than many people are when they graduate college. His life was short, painful, and filled with pressure that most adults could never handle. And after Baldwin died, the kingdom started to crumble. The leaders after him weren't as strong. The nobles fought each other. Mistakes were made. And just 2 years later, in 1187, Saladin returned. This time, Jerusalem fell. The city Baldwin had fought so hard to protect was taken. And that is what makes Baldwin's story so tragic. Because Baldwin didn't lose. He held the line. He delayed the fall. He fought until his body couldn't fight anymore. And when he was gone, the kingdom collapsed. For a long time, people called him the Leper King, like his sickness was the only thing that mattered. But the truth is, Baldwin wasn't remembered because he was sick. He was remembered because he fought anyway. He proved that bravery isn't about having a perfect body. Bravery is about showing up even when life is unfair. King Baldwin IV was a boy who should have been forgotten. Instead, he became a symbol of courage. And behind that mask wasn't weakness. It was pure determination. So if you ever feel like you can't do something because life is hard, remember Baldwin IV, the king who was dying, but still rode into battle. Because sometimes the strongest people are the ones who keep going even when everything is against them. If you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and if you want the next chapter how Jerusalem fell and how the world reacted, then you'll love the next video.